Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show today our two co-hosts all the way down in Los Angeles. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you doing?
Not too bad. And breaking her away from her Legos, her son's Legos today, who is busy building the Disney train set. How jealous are we, Chris?
I want to build that set.
I want to be building that set.
Christy in Florida. How you doing today, Christy?
I am well, Steve.
Well, welcome back. We got a fun show today because we've got some questions that are going to be asked of us. And I think that I've got my book. Nobody can see this, but I got the Disney Cruise Line 2020 book, so I'll be ready to answer any of them.
I thought that you knew all this information out of the top of your head. Are you telling me that you have to reference your answers, Steve?
Oh, lots of referencing and lots of editing to make us sound really good, right? We're super excited to bring a guest podcast on with us today, two amazing hosts, but I'm going to let you, Christy, do the introduction.
You never warned me that this is happening. I should know by now. So I am super excited. I started listening to this podcast a couple years ago, I think, and they just bring me joy when their voices come out. So I am going to welcome from Detour to Neverland, Brendan and Catherine.
Hey, so happy to be on with you guys today.
We are so happy to have you. And I knew we wanted to get you on. When the Wish bookings came out, I said, "Oh, did you guys book the Wish?" And you responded with, "Yes, you did." So I said, this is a perfect conversation for us to talk about questions you might have about cruising Disney Cruise Line as grown-up adults, because you'll tell us in a minute what your previous cruising history is. But so that is the theme of our episode today, questions that grown-ups might have about cruising Disney Cruise Line.
So how long is your longest episode ever?
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, maybe we shouldn't have had all three co-hosts on tonight because all three of us can talk. I do have a question. I know you're going to tell us your cruising history, but you don't have kids, right? So we're talking specifically about what it is like for two adults without children to cruise on Disney Cruise Line, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Well, me and my husband have only ever cruised on Disney Cruise Line without kids, so we got you covered.
Yay.
Tell us how to deal with separation anxiety of worrying about our dogs the entire time that we're gone.
I too have a dog, which is literally, he's sitting right next to me right now. And that is one of the more stressful things. You can't bring dogs with you.
Nobody would want that.
I don't think I would want that either. I think if my dog realized that he was not near land, he would have a meltdown.
Before we jump into the cruising part of it, Brendan and Catherine, you guys run the Detour to Neverland podcast. Why don't you give our listeners just kind of a background who haven't checked out your show yet, how you guys got it started and kind of what you guys cover?
Yeah, so Brendan actually was the mastermind behind starting Detour to Neverland. It was basically a way for us to connect with the parks since we previously lived in Nashville. So we had some distance between us and Disney World. And we just kind of started by learning about other Disney creators. We actually interviewed Christy and we got to talk about your podcast on episode 179. And then from there, everything just kind of took off as far as our obsession with Disney. So now we focus more on the storytelling of different restaurants and different attractions and just how your next experience can be enhanced by knowing some background.
And those background stories are my favorite. I can't say that because I have too many favorites, but I did love the interviews that you did, not just because I was one of the interview people, but I love the interviews, but the background stories. I was having a really bad day last week. One day, it was just things were going wrong. I actually got into an argument with my husband, which we don't do very often, and I didn't like it. I had to go take a shower. I was so crabby. I was so angry at everything. And I needed to put on a podcast to cleanse my mind, to get back into the spirit. I put on Detour. I put on the Figment episode because I hadn't listened to that yet. And it just made me so happy. You guys, you totally turned my day around. Like that shower was like I know this is really corny, but it really did totally change my mood listening to that podcast. You guys are great together.
Well, we appreciate it. That's like the best compliment that we can receive. So that makes us very happy. But yeah, I mean, we always kind of talked about that doing the research and learning more about the history and the storytelling. That's kind of always been just the evolution of our Disney fandom. And so we have a blast, putting together all the research and finding different literature that we can reference and old YouTube videos that we can try to parse together to build some sort of cohesive story. So it's really just, we have fun doing it. So I'm glad that it transfers over through the earphones as well.
Yeah, I bet you never thought that you would have a listener one day tell you that listening to your voice while they're in the shower helped turn their day around.
Yeah.
We've
received weirder responses. So.
Well, we'll save that for another episode.
So I'm gonna answer the first question that you guys didn't know you're gonna ask, but yes, go on the Art of the Theme Show tour when you're on the Wish, if you can fit it in, because that is one of the coolest shows or coolest tours that they do. It's free, it's included, as Christy would say, and that gives you the kind of the background, the Imagineer storytelling that they're trying to do in the ship, and it's really cool.
When is it?
They'll offer it like 1 million times on your sailing, because when a ship first comes out, those tours are crowded because everyone wants to know all the secrets and the like nooks and crannies and what inspired it. So it'll be fun.
That was one of our questions. So you read our minds.
Well, let's jump into it then. Why don't you guys give us your cruising background? So I assume from what we were talking about ahead of time that you've been on Disney Cruise Line before, but when you were kids?
Correct. So
Yes.
I went and I think I was 7 or 8. So I really don't have too many memories of it. And I honestly can't even remember what ship I was on. It had to have been one of those first two, just based on the timeline. Yeah, more recently as adults, we went on probably the most worst planned cruises of all time. We went on Norwegian for spring break when they were offering the free drink package.
Oh,
And it was
Oh.
exactly what you would expect from that scenario.
We were just a few, maybe 4 or 5 years removed from college, and we just kept looking at each other the whole time. Like, we weren't that annoying, were we? Maybe we were, but it's hard to imagine that we were.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. But I had also I've been on 2 Disney cruises. So both before I was an adult, when I was 16 and when I was 18 for my graduation trip. And that was about it. Went with my family both times.
So you actually have memories because you were 18.
Yes. So I do remember what it was like, kind of some of the different activities that they had to offer, but not from like a real adult standpoint. Like when I went, my sister was 17. So it was like she was the age to do all the kids stuff still. And I did the adult stuff, but she couldn't come with us. So it was a weird in between time where I don't really know what we did, honestly. We just kind of wandered around, sat by the pool, ate a lot. That's all I remember.
So parents, take note that your 7-year-old won't remember their cruise.
well,
Yeah.
that is one of the things I tell parents, even from a travel agent perspective, because, I want to wait until my kids remember. Okay, I went to Australia when I was 14, and I still only remember buckets of that trip. So I don't remember the trips I took, all of them 5 years ago, like every moment. There's going to be little bits and memories that people will remember. And you probably have this, I hope, this overarching memory of you enjoying this time with your family. But my first cruise, I was 7 years old, and we've talked about it just recently. There's only a couple of little tiny moments I remember from that cruise, but I remember that I loved it and I knew I wanted to do it again. And that's what's important. And even when my kid was 2 and he went on a cruise, he's not going to remember that, but he can remember the feeling of knowing that he loved this experience when he was littler.
What stuck with me more than anything, it's a kind of a funny story about it was, one grandma decided that she was going to take all the family, all the aunts and uncles and all the grandchildren. And so we all went on a Royal Caribbean cruise. And then the other grandma got jealous and said, we're going to take everybody on a Disney cruise just, a couple of years later. And I do remember thinking we were on the Disney cruise that, all right, this one won. Grandma did better than other grandma.
Uh-oh, don't let those grandmas listen now.
Well, let's turn to what you guys have booked. Is the next cruise you have booked on the Wish?
Yes. As of right now, we do have some others that we are eyeing. But as of right now, the only thing we have booked is the Wish for July.
Well, hopefully with our answers today, Christy, we'll encourage them to jump on something a little bit sooner before the Wish.
Yes, do that.
Well, let's jump into some of the questions that you guys have. You've had a little bit of time to think about some tough ones for us. Where do you guys want to start? Staterooms, the ship itself?
We're probably just going to jump all around if we're being completely honest. So
Perfect.
I
Keep
think,
you on your toes.
yeah. So we did book one of the 4-night sailings on the Disney Wish next summer. And I think kind of off the bat, we already knew that we are going to treat the Nassau Day. And I know we've heard about you guys debate this in the past. We're probably not going to get off the ship in Nassau. And so we wanted to just know what are some of your tips on what we can do. We were kind of looking that maybe we could do Senses, which I don't know. Have they announced, is it going to be called Senses on the Wish? Or are they going to continue that same name? Maybe. But, what are some other of your favorite things that you would do on a port day where you're not going to get off the ship?
So I will say that port day may be a little bit different than regular or other cruise port days where you're not getting off, because I would say that probably for the Wish, for the inaugural season, 90% of the passengers on board are going to stay on board on Nassau Day. Don't you guys agree?
Oh yeah, especially in the 3-day cruises.
Yeah, but then they're going on a 4-day, but even still,
right.
It's a brand new ship. There's tons of new things to experience.
Yeah.
So
how do you like to fill your day, Christy, on a day in Nassau then? To answer the spa, that will probably book up. So you're going to want to try and book it, my guess, as soon as your booking window opens, if there's something that you'd like to do spa-wise.
And actually, I'm going to disagree with you just slightly. I mean, yes, you could book something, but I wouldn't book it on a Nassau Day necessarily when your booking window opens if there's something you want to pay for at the spa, because for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, because they assume people are getting off and they want to fill the spa days. While the ship's in port, these spas always run some sort of weird little special on the port days. So even if it's a port where most people are really staying on the ship, they're still going to call it a port day special. The first day when you get on the ship, you could actually go to the spa and see what their Nassau port day special is going to be and sign up for, their random opening spot that they're going to have. And usually what the special is, it's either a little discount, which I believe, are you guys DVC? I feel like you have a DVC somewhere in there. Okay. So yes, you're shaking your head. Yes, you're DVC. There are some discounts that I feel like might be for DVC or for Disney Visa, something like that. There are discounts that people can get in the spa. So you're going to look into that and you're going to get those, but you should ask, is there a Nassau special? And then book something. And usually it'll be like, you'll get a scalp massage with your back massage, and the scalp massage has no additional charge. Something like that will be like the thing. So if you wanted to, that's a good way to fill that time. The other thing I think I would recommend is first thing in the morning, because if people are going to get off and just walk around the port, they're going to do it right in the morning for whatever reason. That's the time the most people, or if they're going to do a small excursion, are going to be off. That's when I would look to see when the AquaMouse opens, the water coaster, and I would look to consider getting in line for that, because that might be your small window where enough people have left the ship to get in and maybe do a little bit shorter of a line there.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that, honestly.
One other thing you could possibly look into with the spa is get a rainforest pass. And so that's something that you can use you can either buy a day pass or you can get one for the whole cruise. And I'm assuming that they're going to have a rainforest room. It should be pretty amazing. The Dream and the Fantasies is much nicer than the Magic of the Wonders. And so it's not where you're going to go get a spa treatment, but it's kind of like that spa atmosphere where they have hot and cold showers, saunas. They have these warm benches you can bed
They're
type
like
things.
beds.
Yeah, that you can sit on. And we've only done it once, but we had like the best conversation. And this is going to sound weird, in a hot tub one time. My wife and I were just talking to 2 other DVC members, and we talked for like half an hour. It was really fun. So you might look into something like that as far versus a full treatment.
I will say that the spa on the new ship is breaking with tradition, and they're putting it down on a lower deck, so there won't be probably outdoor space for the spa. So that's interesting. They haven't done stuff like that before. In the past, the spas have had like couples suites where you had like your own private veranda with like plunge tubs and things like that. So I think, Steve, they'll probably double down on rainforest and stuff like that, because those are indoor amenities that were really popular. So I think they'll probably expand those options and make them nicer, because they're not going to be able to rely on the upper deck views that they used to have.
And they can make money at it. And it's kind of an easy way to make money, right? Like give people some bath scrub. How much in reality does that cost Disney? And yet people are paying $50 for the week or whatever. I have no idea how much that thing is. So that they can stand in a shared shower and scrub bath scrubs on each other. So I think it's a great moneymaker that Disney, I agree with Chris, that Disney would double down and make the money where they can.
What other recommendations do you have to spend the day at Nassau if most people are not getting off, as far as what's been your experience of some things, fun things to do?
As was already said, unfortunately, no one is going to be getting off the ship, at least not the Wish, because the cruises are short. And already it kind of feels like you can't see everything on a ship in 4 days. You'll really want the extra time. The ship will not be empty. That's a thing. That sucks is difficult, because on some of those excursion days or port days, the ship really is empty when they go to really cool locations. Like if you ever cruise the Med, the ship will be empty because every stop in the Med is like this cool place to go see. But if you're cruising Nassau in particular, unfortunately, not many people get off. And I say unfortunately because I do think that a big part of the cruise industry is tourism for the countries that the ship stops in. And I think, if it weren't the maiden voyage, I would encourage everybody, or the maiden season, I would encourage everybody to get off in whatever port, just so that they can help build tourism. But in this case, I will eat my own words and say I am not getting off of the Wish. Maybe I'll get off the Wish in Castaway.
But some other fun things you guys can do is if you've never done trivia, I was never really into trivia until we started cruising, and that can be a lot of fun. They'll have a lot of trivia during the day on
the Nassau day.
Yeah, we did trivia on Nassau Day, and you can watch the Art of the Theme Show tour. They may run that on Nassau Day too, as well. There's going to be a lot of
watch random people get married in the atrium. They always have that on port days.
That does sound fun.
Christy and I are always hiding behind pillars watching the random people get married. So that's an option. Sure now.
Just to piggyback off this question, what do you think the difference in mindset should be on the Port Nassau Day versus the day at sea day? What things should you prioritize on either day to try to see as much of the ship as possible?
That's a good question. I will say that historically, there are less organized activities on a port day. However, I think that the Wish will know that there are so many people on the ship and be concerned that there's not enough to do, that they may have more activities to do than maybe if the Dream were stopping in Nassau. But you could expect that there will probably be less activities on the Nassau Day when the Wish is in port. And therefore, if there are certain activities you really want to do, like anyone can cook classes where they teach you how to make, usually it's strudel, but there's other things that they'll teach you how to make and you get to sample it, which is fun. Those classes are typically on sea days. Things like that might be more targeted on those sea days. So if there's specialty classes or fun things like that you want to do, I would say do those on the sea days. They might not be offered on Nassau.
And so to that end, something to do on the Nassau Day would be like if they do on the Dream and the Fantasy, they had the Midship Detective Agency, which is a little scavenger hunt type situation where you solve a crime or solve a mystery, you're solving something. It's all on your own. It's a self-tour type situation. That would be something you could do when Disney is not offering any activities. So if it was Nassau morning, because usually in the morning on port days, they don't offer anything else really, except for the port. And by like afternoon or early afternoon, then they start to offer stuff again. But in the morning, they're just sort of like, you're supposed to be off the ship. And so we've done our part. We've pulled up to the port. That's the entertainment we're supposed to provide you. If you want to stay on, you have to provide your own. So that's when you do all that other little stuff that you can do during that time.
Another thing you can do on the port days too is a lot of times they'll have one of the kids clubs that is shut down just for the kids, but the other one will be open. And I'm not sure how this one's going to be split as far as it's got to be split into two. Don't you guys think? They haven't really said for sure, but that could be a day where you could go explore the kids club too, or part of it. That looks pretty cool with the Imagineering space that they've got. At least I think so, with the roller coaster. And if nothing else, it's a cool tour just to go see like Andy's room. And I think that's the magic that Andy's room is in, and just kind of see how they develop those cool spaces for the kids.
To Christy's point about not as many activities on Nassau Day, there will definitely not be as many ship activities on Castaway Day. And the main reason for that is not because it's a port day, it's because half the crew have to get off to run the island. So they really don't have the crew to do fun stuff on the ship the way they would on Nassau Day. Because on Nassau Day, some crew does have to get off to help. I still am putting money on the fact that the Wish will probably have more activities in Nassau than a typical Disney ship, just because of the sheer number of people staying on. But in Castaway Day, there is really not much happening on that ship because the crew has to get off and run the island.
We are not morning people, but I can tell you on Castaway Day, we will be
We'll be the first ones at the door.
We're not sleeping that night.
We're so excited.
Especially because you haven't been there as like adults or as a married couple. You probably haven't spent much time at Serenity Bay, which is like the adults only beach. There's a lot of stuff that you can do on Castaway that I think might be shinier than even a brand new Disney ship, just because it's a really beautiful paradise. And when you're out there, you feel like you're, in the middle of the ocean and on this beautiful island. So it's so cool.
And I know you worry about the sun a lot. And so you'll be happy to know that at Castaway, there is tons of umbrellas. Yeah. So there is tons of chairs and umbrellas. There's tons of cover. So you'll have lots of opportunity, even from moving about the island. There will be a little bit of a walk when you first get off the ship. So you're going to want to have your sun hat on, but then you'll get into a tram that's covered and the place to get on the tram is covered. And so there's lots of coverage for you. Just bring all of the sunblock in the world.
I'm a Floridian now. I just tan now.
No, I don't believe it.
No, not quite. All the sunblock here. But sticking with, so we were just talking about like the kids clubs. This is actually a conversation, a heated discussion that we had when you first get onto the ships. I was under the impression that they were open so that like adults without kids like us could go check them out like that first day. Is that true, or do you have to have kids with you?
That is true, but it's like, is the reason so adults like us can check it out? Not exactly. The reason is so that parents with kids can see what their kids are going to be doing for the rest of the cruise. But I can tell you that Seth and I have still been the adults without kids running around the kids club looking at all the stuff. So you don't have to feel weird about that. Also, if they stick with tradition, they will have the coolest hand washing stations where you like put your hands in this little machine and it washes them for you. So there's fun stuff like that. But yes, it is true that on Sail Away Day, and usually at a couple other points throughout your cruise, they will have what they call open house. And that means that anyone of any age can go into the kids club and check it out.
I think we thought that until we watched that promotional video for the Wish, and that Imagineer was very strict about this is for kids. And so I didn't like her delivery.
And I'm sure the slide is just for kids. I really highly doubt that adults are getting on that slide anytime soon, because somebody's going to get stuck and then that'll ruin it for the rest of the kids. But anytime, like Chris was saying, that it says open house, and you should look because there is open house almost half the time in one of the clubs. There are the popular hours, like in the evening after dinner or around all that time, where they'll have the whole clubs open because they're jammed with children. But then some of the times, half of the times during the day or whatever, they'll only have half of the club open. So then the other half, and again, like Steve said, we don't know exactly how it's going to be divided. But because Disney is still mentioning an Oceaneer Club and an Oceaneer Lab, that to me means that they're dividing up the club. So you'll be able to then explore that area. And you can pretend you're like your kids with grandma and you're just checking it out to make sure it feels safe in your head if you want. You can even tell them. They don't know that you have kids or not. They don't scan anything.
Hey, we have no shame in our game. We purely just want to check it out. Brendan was just under the impression we wouldn't be allowed to.
I'm just saying that one lady, it was that one line. She threw me off.
Yeah, they do. They really do market towards specific audiences. They'll also have you believe that on the Dream and Fantasy, there won't be kids in the adult area, except the ships were designed so that kids have to walk through the adult area to get places. So they've remedied that on the Wish. And now all the way forward or aft, it might be aft, is the adult area. And that's cool because that means kids don't have to walk through there and you can have some respite. Because if you're sailing in the summer on a Disney cruise ship out of Port Canaveral, there will be kids, lots of kids.
I was going to say, as long as none of them call me Miss Wright, I'll be okay.
As long as they don't use your teacher name.
Yeah.
Promise you nothing.
Before we get to the next question, one of the things that I think is really slick is just download the Disney Cruise Line app. And when you get on board, and I think it works when you're in the port as well. And so you can start scrolling. If you get some dead time there while you're waiting to get on board, you can start scrolling through it and it'll go day by day. And you can just start looking at the activities and just heart each one that you want to go do. And I heart a bunch. Sometimes I have like 3 at the same time. I'll heart it so that like it'll give you like 15 minutes. Hey, there's trivia here and there's this going on over there. What do you want to do? You can make your game time decision and go from there. But then you could start looking like, is the Art of the Theme show offered on Nassau Day? No, it's only on the Sea Day. So then, maybe you make that your priority to go and do that if that's something you want to do. But the app is slick.
And they do it in such a cool way where they'll say like activities for all. So you can do any of those. So if you want to, like, I know Steve, I don't even know if he always takes his kids, but he likes to do the little drawing classes. So you can do that even if you don't have your kids, or if you don't have kids with you, rather. You can do the how do you draw Mickey Mouse or Simba or whatever they're drawing at that moment. And that'll say fun for all ages. So you're allowed to do it. And then they'll have specific adult only activities that obviously you can do as well. So it's fun to be able to see the different categories of activities so that you don't just have to go to the 18 and up activities.
We're going to have to do that because we've had the worst luck at the animation experience at Animal Kingdom recently. They always give us Hopper and Scar and all these other really, really difficult characters to animate. So I need like some simpler
like a Mickey.
ones.
Yes.
When we were in Disney's California Adventure, October of 2019, we drew Vampire Mickey, and that was awesome.
That was a good one.
So we can continue. I've tried to group them in my mind. So we'll stick with kind of ship in general questions for now, and then we'll move to staterooms. And then we probably have the most questions about food. So we'll save that.
I'm an expert.
Yeah. So characters, it's maybe something that before COVID we wouldn't have put much priority in, but now I think we miss meeting with characters so much that maybe if by the time it's safe to do that next July, what is the strategy? I guess we've heard, wait towards the end of your cruise, but on a 4-day cruise, does that same logic still apply? Or is it just if you see a short line, go get in it?
Some character tips is certain characters only are going to show up in that outfit one time. So like Minnie will be Captain Minnie in her Captain Minnie wear only once or maybe twice, but not like every time she's not going to show up in that outfit. So if there's an outfit that you think and a character that you think you want to meet, you're going to want to make that a priority. Then as long as the line is open up until the point that it's starting, you can get in it. But they will close the line like 15 minutes after or whatever amount of time after that character was supposed to show up. So I actually recommend showing up about 15 to 20 minutes early, especially if it's a character that you really want to see. And you'll start, even as a new cruiser, even early on, you'll start to see where they're going to line people up right after the first day. Like, okay, so these characters, if they're talking about Atrium, they're always going to be at this spot, and this is where that line is going to form. And one of you could be off getting a coffee or a drink or a little treat from wherever, and the other of you can be standing in line, and then you can merge in. You can absolutely be adults seeing characters. That's okay. Obviously, we don't know what character viewing is going to look like for the rest of 2021 when cruising restarts. We don't know what it's going to look like in 2022, but hopefully by then, this stuff can be enough behind us that it'll be a normal character experience.
Who do you want to meet, Catherine?
Any kind of Avenger. I guess if it was up to me, Wanda would be on there. Scarlet Witch, whatever you want to call her.
That's just wishful thinking.
That's wishful. I mean, anything can happen, right?
I don't
nice
know.
pun.
I mean, they have a
Nice
Marvel restaurant, so it is possible that Wanda will make her first ever Disney Cruise Line moment. But I will say that, so what Christy's describing here are the announced character meets. There are also unannounced character meets where you just are walking around the ship and a character appears. And in that case, I would say if it's a character you like, go and meet them. But like my sort of like white whale on the Disney Cruise Line was Captain Minnie. And one time she just walked past us and we were on our way to do something, and we literally dropped everything and followed her until she stopped, and then a line formed and we were first in line and we met her. So she's really hard to find. Maybe they'll like get wise to the fact that people really like her. And also, I will say she is on the bow of the ship. So that's a big deal. She's never been featured as a like part of the metal work on the front of the ship. So it's pretty cool.
This made me think of something, and I don't want to forget to say it, but to the point of, if there's somebody you want to see in an outfit you want, don't miss them. If there's something you want, changing the subject a bit, to in the stores, in the shops that you see at the beginning of the cruise, do not think about it. Just buy it, put it in your cabin, think about it towards the end of the cruise, because there's been many a time where I have thought to buy something and then I didn't, and it was gone. And then I've also had times where I've thought to, you know what, I might want that, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to keep it or not. So I just kept it in my cabin with the tags on, everything looking nice. And then I could think about it for the cruise. And then by the end of the cruise, that item was also sold out. So it was like, I knew I can keep this or make somebody else happy and they can get it. But do not sit on those purchases, especially in the beginning, especially if it's wish specific during the inaugural season, because they will fly off the shelves and you can return it for the entire cruise. You don't have to have buyer's remorse later.
Yeah, they won't know what's going to sell well in the beginning. And so they will stock the ship with what they think will sell well, and then they'll figure it out. So it is really likely in the first couple months that the things that they thought were popular won't be as popular, and the things that they didn't think were popular will be. And they basically have a huge storage area for their merch at Port Canaveral, and they only load on the ship what they can fit on the ship for each sailing. And so things will sell out and then they'll restock when they get back to the port. But that's why if you want it, go ahead and throw it on your room board. The other thing is, on these short cruises, they're not charging your card that often. It's like they charge your card every 500, Christy, is that right?
It changed. I don't really know. What I would say is use a credit card versus a debit card, because they're going to do that like at Walt Disney World, where they pull that money off of your account, that holding period, to make sure that you have money to cover your bill. If you use a credit card and you have some space on there, even if they charge it, they can put it back. They can do whatever. It's not due tomorrow. So you have a minute, you have a little bit of space, but that is trickier when you have a debit card, because it's literally pulling the money out of your bank account.
Yeah.
We learned that the hard way.
Oh,
Yeah, we have learned that the hard way.
In Disneyland. Yep. In downtown Disney, World of Disney. Get up there, swipe it. And they say, nope. And they said, please take this Chase Bank card.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, that's the thing. The money does stress me out a little bit, because you're not like, unless you're staying in concierge, you don't have Wi-Fi to like check your bank account and to like see how you're doing. It just is like happening. And so if you had like a set budget and you want to see, is anything coming out of my bank account? You like can't go check that unless you have.
You can go to guest services though and ask them what pull up my.
You can, but I'm talking about like bills, Christy. I'm saying like if my like rent came out and all of a sudden I had less money in my bank account than I thought, I want to know that. I'm also one of the weird people who wakes up in the morning and checks my bank account as if something magic happened overnight.
Okay, so my father-in-law.
If you're a millennial who is like a little bit concerned about that, my very first cruise, I didn't think about it. And I was like, when we got back into Port Canaveral, everything was normal and fine. But I was like, where is this money coming from? I wasn't sure. So anyway, they also, on the older ships at least, give you 50 megabits of data for free on the first day.
First day only.
Yeah, on the first day.
You have to sign up on the first day.
But then what you realize is that like a half a text message is 50 megabits.
It is not. No, you can totally get away. Listen, if you don't do social media, that's the key. Yes. If you don't go on social media, and there is on Scott Sanders' Royal Caribbean blog, there is a whole page where he talks about how to turn off your refresh, blah, 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 and your background, blah, blah, blah on your phone, all the things.
Yeah.
All the things so that you don't burn through 100 megabytes in 1 second by opening up your phone. To that end, if you are like me and leave 17,000 tabs open in your Safari on your cell phone, you're going to need to close all those before you go on the cruise. So be prepared to do that. It's very sad because I like to have all of mine open. You can get through an entire 4-day cruise on 50 megabytes and still even randomly post to social media. You just can't look at anything. So you could post, but you can't be commenting. But we like check our email and can make it through the week on it. If we're really judicious, you log in, you get what you need, you log out.
Also, pro tip, if you can handle it, one of the best parts about cruising is that you're unreachable and that you have to unplug.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even when I've had Wi-Fi, because when you cruise Alaska, there's randomly Wi-Fi as you're sailing close to land. But even when I've had Wi-Fi on a cruise, I've told my employer and everyone in my life, you will not be able to reach me. I will be unreachable for a week, so that I've never felt obligated to reach out to anybody the whole time. And that's so like nice in today's culture and today's society. So that's a bonus for cruising, I find.
So no TikToking, Catherine.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
Honestly, what we'll want to check more than anything is to check the ring to look at our dogs.
Yeah.
But just 4 days, so we're good.
Are the dogs staying home alone? Like,
yeah, we
stay with them.
So this is a whole different discussion, but that's been the hardest thing moving down here. Is we used to have a wonderful boarding place back in Tennessee. Now we have someone come to the house to watch the dogs.
Why don't we move on with a stateroom question?
So we did go with the veranda stateroom. We're on deck 6. I guess, what are your tips to make sure that we feel like we got our money's worth for splurging for the veranda instead of just going with an ocean view?
One beautiful thing is call and get, if you guys drink coffee, room service coffee. It's like you don't have to pay for the room service coffee. So order room service coffee, tip the people $2, and then take your coffee onto the balcony first thing in the morning and just sit there for a few minutes. That is so lovely. And then on the opposite end, you can bring 2 bottles of wine on board if you drink wine, or certain beer sizes and cans and something. There's rules about the beer, so you can look into that. But plan to have a beverage on your balcony in the evening once or twice and just sit out there and listen to the waves hitting the ship. And deck 6 is perfect for that because you're so much closer to the water line. It's so relaxing. It's so lovely. It's going to be 8 billion degrees in July or the summer, but it'll still be so lovely to just listen to the sound of the sea going by while you're sitting out there for a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll sit out there in the evening right before I go to bed and just listen to it. It's just like so soothing, like Christy says. And that's, it's not as hot then. And it's just a great way to kind of finish off the evening too.
If you have the glass veranda, so there are different types of verandas and all of them are fantastic for their own reason, but you can even open the blind, the curtains completely, the shade, whatever, the curtains all the way open while you're getting ready to go for the day. When you're just hanging out, getting dressed, doing all that stuff, to see floor to ceiling window of the ocean and out into the distance. So even if you're not sitting out on the veranda a ton, you can still get a huge benefit. And it's much bigger window than you get out of an ocean view. So it's not like you're getting the same experience of having an ocean view. So you can still feel like you've gotten value just by opening those curtains. Like literally the first thing when we're all awake, or if I'm trying to wake my family, I will open up the curtains, let that natural light in, and just the beauty of the ocean first thing in the morning, every time. It just makes you happy.
Nose goes on opening it up.
Yeah, I know. Whoever's going to get out of bed.
Well, whoever's getting the coffee can open up the curtains. You guys can start with coffee in the bed until you get moving enough, and then you can open those up and get going.
So I guess speaking of food, since we're talking about coffee, our first dining question revolves around, I guess, just the dining that they have. So we wanted early dining because we've always been, I guess, of the impression that that's better, but we have late dining. Yeah. So we're not sure what to think as far as scheduling and how to make the best, I guess, of late dining.
I'll take this one. I have to cut off Christy because Christy's incorrect on this one.
That's what I was going to say. I'm the only one who likes early dining.
For a bunch of reasons, but I'm on the West Coast, so this is a different, I do not use the time zone reason, though I think Steve's family would use the time zone reason, which is like, if we traveled there, you want us to eat lunch at like 2 p.m. or eat dinner at 2 p.m? That's really early. But I'm more so like, I travel a lot for work. And Steve does too, but I'm sort of like, whatever. The food time is not what I think about it. What I think about is it's a lot less kids at the second dining because families with kids really try to take that first dining because asking a kid to wait till 8 p.m. is rough. 2, if you don't care, taking second dining is opening up a coveted spot for people with kids. So I pat myself on the back when I do that. And then 3, I prefer seeing the show before dinner, not after, because I don't like the whole thing of like, you have to leave dinner quickly so that you can go to the theater and or get ready to go to an event or something. I like to have leisurely dinner for a couple hours, then wander into the adult area for more drinks or go up on deck to watch the fireworks or things like that. And I feel like with evening dining, there is less of a pressure that after this, I have to go do something. It's more so after this, I can do whatever I want. So those are my reasons. And Chrissy disagrees on most of them.
And it's the middle of the night. So you're going to go to bed, although they don't like to sleep in. So they probably like the middle of the night. Let me just say, if you really want early dining, though, you can waitlist yourself. And I've never not been successful. One time it did take to the second day of my cruise, but I've never not been successful getting early dining on a cruise. And actually, if I'd shown up to put myself on the list earlier than way into the day, I would have been further down the list to get early dining if I had wanted it that first day. So anyway, you can get yourself on a wait list if you want early dining. And I would suggest doing it now if you want it. However, everything Chris said is right. Okay. Everything Chris said is right. And, you childless millennials, they're all in late dining.
We ate dinner at 4:30 today. So
I'm with you.
So you are the type of people who like to eat early.
Yeah. I mean, we have fully embraced the Florida retired lifestyle 4:00 special.
Okay. Well, you could use Christy's trick and go and sign up for first dining. But I will tell you that what might feel like, oh, this is going to be horrible, when you actually have to do it is fine. Also, it's cruising, so you will eat exactly 14 meals a day. So it doesn't really matter. You will definitely eat a 4:00 meal, and you might even get popcorn during the show. And then you'll go and have a 4-course meal at the restaurant that night. And then you might even at night randomly in the adult bar area, they put out a buffet just every night of random finger foods. Yeah. Christy, you're in bed. So there are so many opportunities for food that I think it's sort of you will never be hungry. But yes, the very formal, or not very formal, but the more formal 3-course meal does happen just once a day.
I'm feeling better about it.
I do too, actually.
I might take us off the wait list.
You had a very good argument.
I'm going to go with Chris and totally agree with him too. Just because after you eat a ton of food and going into the shows, I end up falling asleep halfway through sometimes. And I mean, we find it kind of refreshing. Like when people are eating at that first dining, if you don't want to do the show that night, a lot of times we can go to the Aqua Mouse, the Aqua Dunk, or whatever else. You can ride that several times, grab a little snack up there in one of those quick service places up on the deck. And then you go back and change and go have your dinner. And then like Chris said, I love that feeling too, where you can do whatever you want after dinner then too. And a lot of the things that we like to do is just maybe go down to deck 4 and stroll around. My wife and I'll take a little bit of a walk and then go find something, some kind of activity to do after that. So we were kind of hesitant at first too, when our kids were younger, but we found that we really love it. We really love it. Even on our European cruise that we've got booked, we're going to do the same thing with the late dining.
There are less kids, even by virtue of the fact that they rush the children's meals on second seating, and then they take the kids away. So they don't do this in main seating, but in second seating, there's like something occurs like the half an hour after dinner starts or 40 minutes after dinner starts that literally the kids club counselors take the kids to the kids club. So then it's there's only half the restaurant left. And I will also say that even the waiters themselves like second seating better because it's a slower paced, more relaxed environment because they don't have the clock that they're hitting up against of needing to turn the restaurant over for the second set of seating. And if I could stay up late enough for that, I might be desiring to do a second seating, but it literally is dinner time at my bedtime. So that cannot happen for me.
Sold at 2 dinners.
Yeah.
To that point as well, don't be afraid to tell your waiters that like, hey, we're going to try and make this, because it does slow down that second seating sometimes. And so they just, if you're just relaxing and enjoying yourself, they'll let you relax. But if you got something you want to try and make, don't be afraid to let them go, hey, we're going to try and make this tonight, and they'll get your feet out in time so you can do it.
So as far as restaurants, and tell me, I may have a complete wrong understanding of this, but it sounds like there's 3 rotational restaurants on the Wish. Since we're on a 4-night cruise, is there anything that we can do if, I guess 2-part question. If we wanted to eat at, say, the Marvel restaurant twice, is there anything that we can do to make that happen? Or do you suggest that's when we should do Enchante or the Rose or something like that?
Well, so yes, to both those questions. You can request to have a certain dining rotation, and you can request to have the Marvel restaurant twice. You guys both know that if I'm on a cruise, I am not requesting the Marvel restaurant twice, but other people will. The requests, though, are just that. They are just requests. There's no guarantee that it'll happen. And you will learn when you go to arrive at the ship, when you get your Key to the World card, it'll have letters on them that tell you the order of the restaurants that you're attending or that you're going to. And that'll say whether or not you have gotten your request or not. Then the second question, or the second part of your question is that the night you should do it? Typically, yes. Typically, but it also depends. Your cruise is a little bit further into the season. You'll be able to see some of those menus. And if there is a menu that you don't want, or that you're not as excited about, but you want to go to the Marvel restaurant twice, but you also have no desire to go to, well, you probably want to go to everywhere, but you don't like the food that they're going to serve you at 1823 or something like that. Or you're like, forget Frozen, I'm over Frozen. You can try to figure out to schedule your adult only dining on one of those nights.
Everything that Christy said, I will say yes to. And also for your first cruise, I probably wouldn't put much stock in like trying to choose a rotation that's better suited to you. And the reason why is because whatever night that you eat at the second restaurant, like that you eat at a restaurant twice, is not going to be the Marvel show all over again. It's literally just going to be that restaurant without any of that happening. For example, if you eat at Animator's Palette on the second night, which is typically Pirates Night, which this podcast, Pirates Night, is not the most popular thing, but some of our listeners love it. People with kids also love it. The second night is usually a Pirates Night, which means whatever TVs or screens they have in that Marvel restaurant will probably have a Pirates Night logo on them. And the waiters will probably dress up in their Pirate Night outfit, and it won't be a Marvel dinner. So unless Disney's doing something wildly different than before, that restaurant isn't really going to be Marvel the Marvel show. It's just going to be the restaurant that the Marvel show happens in, but pirate night. My typical recommendation is find out whatever night Pirates Night is and book the adult restaurant on that night, because then you can guarantee that that'll be whatever restaurant you're in the second time. And you can also guarantee that you won't have to eat the pirate menu, which is just not my favorite. So there's like any number of reasons. But let's say you don't even want to deal with all of that, but you still want to eat in an adult restaurant. You can try your hand at booking brunch. They will probably have brunch in both the adult restaurants to try to maximize money and seating. And some people say that they might even offer brunch on Nassau Day because it's just that popular and they could make more money if they do that. So typically brunch is only offered on a C day, but in this case, they may offer the brunch on Nassau and the C day, probably not on Castaway because of what I told you about the crew needing to go off and get on the island. But I would highly recommend brunch. Christy and I have done it. Steve thinks he should have done it. And it's a really good upcharge meal. It's expensive-ish, but it's really good food.
So there's a high likelihood of us trying to do brunch. So what would you recommend?
Everything. To eat everything. Literally go starving, eat everything and split it. So my husband and I would do that where we'd be like, we're going to need this, and this, and we're going to be splitting them. And you can take your time. And then there's the buffet. So there's a menu portion of brunch, and then there's a buffet portion of brunch. And honestly, the bread, I can't eat it. As most people know, I can't eat, I'm celiac, I can't have the bread. But that bread looks amazing. But most of that bread, I would probably skip because there's too much yummy food that you need to fill your bellies with.
They're trying
and
to trick
chocolate
us.
covered strawberries.
Oh, okay.
And you can't take anything out of there. So occasionally they'll let me take something because they've brought me a special plate of gluten-free food or whatever. So they're like, just take it. But you can't take food out. So you have to save room for the chocolate covered strawberries or whatever else. That little champagne dessert thing with like these little gelatin champagnes with fruit in there. Oh my God, you have to have room for that.
2 beverage related questions. We are suckers for specialty coffees and for alcoholic beverages, mainly cocktails with some beer. Can you walk us through that? I know, Christy, we've heard you say in the past, you're not paying for coffee on the cruise ship. So
Steve does.
what's the best approach to that? And then we've heard things about the beer mugs and the drink of the day mugs. Is that something that's worth it? Or should we just budget to get the drinks that we want?
Well, the quick answer is budget to get the drinks that you want. But Steve, why don't you talk about the Cove Cafe, your favorite place?
Yeah, so the Cove Cafe, the coffee, the free coffee is not very good. So if you like good coffee, it really isn't very good. So the Cove Cafe, one thing that they do is they do a punch card. So make sure you get a punch card from them, and you can use that at the Cove and also on deck 4 if they're going to have a coffee place on deck 4. So,
and they don't expire, and you can both use the same punch card. So if you're getting 2 punches, it's not like you each have to have your own punch card. You can have 2 punches at one time.
right. And I can't remember if it's like 5 and a free one or 10 and a free one of the two, something like that. But their coffee is amazing. They do a really good cold brew. They've got this special contraption from Italy, which is amazing. I've got the beer mug. You can get a card for it. And so you don't have to hold onto the beer mug the whole time. So if you're a beer drinker, it's worth it. You get quite a bit more over the course of the cruise. And what you do is you buy the card, you give it to the waiter or give it to the bartender. They're going to fill up a mug. When you're done, give the mug back to them. They'll give you the card back. And then you can either take a mug home when you want. When you leave the cruise, you can hold on to that card and take it to you to the next cruise. So I just hold on to the card.
Oh, so you don't keep the mug?
No, I don't, to be honest, I don't
Because
really
it's
like
heavy.
the mugs. It's kind of a big clunky. It's super tall, which is kind of weird because it's like, you'd think that like on a cruise.
The beer card gets you like 20 ounces of beer for the price of 16 ounces of beer. And that's the point. So the whole entire cruise, you get those extra ounces. So if you're going to drink beer and going to keep drinking beer in the draft form, it makes sense.
I honestly don't know if I want a single beer on it. I'm leaning more. I mean, you're on vacation.
You got to splurge? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Get the fruity drinks. I will say that the specialty like drinks are typically cheaper, the like drink of the day or whatever. But also, if you're used to paying big city prices for drinks in any way, or tourist prices for drinks on land, the Disney Cruise Line price for drinks is not actually that bad. Like you could get 2 drinks on the Disney Cruise Line for the price of 1 drink in West Hollywood or Washington, D.C. or New York City. So just flagging that the drink situation is not as bad as you might think. And unlike other cruise lines, Disney does not do a bottomless unlimited alcohol option. You know, you might be thinking, well, you're really not going to get your money's worth. But I find that on those other cruise lines, when they're like, you all went on Norwegian, so you actually know this to be true. When they're like free drink package, just pay $489 for the taxes and gratuities. And you're like, was I going to spend $489 on drinks? I do think that, like, you know, on Disney, it's more about savoring the drinks than it is about getting inebriated.
We're good with that.
Me too.
Just one more question about the coffee. You know, we've heard that you can do the room service to get it delivered in the morning. Do they do any specialty coffees in that, or that's just cup of coffee?
It's a carafe. They'll bring you like a keep it warm carafe. And Christy said you can call, but you can also put a little door hanger out on your door, and they'll deliver it at between X time and X time. So like 6 and 6:30 or 6:30 and 7. So you could do that every night the night before. I think you have to put it out by like 2 a.m., 1 a.m., something like that. And then they'll deliver it. But you're not getting hot breakfast. You're getting hot coffee and pastries. It's essentially like continental breakfast.
Do they have Joffrey's coffee on board the ships?
I don't know what's in those carafes. In the Cove Cafe, it is not Joffrey's. It's like gourmet coffee. And it's pretty good. It tastes like, you know, a not Starbucks local coffee shop.
I wonder though if Disney, we'll have to see when Wish like menus come out and things like that, because they have started charging for items with room service. Like you can get M&Ms delivered to your room and you pay like $3 or something. They would be really smart to charge for Chris to get his iced coffee first thing in the morning. And then the people with the cold foam, I don't even know what that means, but people are really into that. So Disney would do really well just charging people's shipboard account and delivering that stuff. So you never know, because this is a company that needs a little money right now. So, okay, Disney, if you're listening, you should add that.
Yeah,
the thing is,
for it.
It's probably hard to scale that. Cold brew is not hard to scale. That's just pouring, you know, you could make cold brew in large quantities in advance, but lattes and cappuccinos, those require like a 1-to-1 barista.
There's no reason that they can't do that though. They have bars that have the coffee machines in it. There's no reason not to have a couple of people running coffees. So you order it and they have the time set up. It's totally doable. It's the same thing as you taking your little Heine up to the Cove Cafe and standing in line yourself and buying it.
It's true. I do take my Heine up to the Cove Cafe every day. But I will also say, you know, we've only ever stayed in verandas and you're staying in a veranda. And some people will tell you there is nothing to do on a veranda, but I will literally sometimes bring my coffee from the Cove Cafe back to my room so I could be on my own veranda, because
without the people,
unlike a lot of folks who are like, we never used it. I'm like, oh, I'm using it. This was an extra $600. I'm going to be on here at least for 30 minutes every day. And honestly, you're almost guaranteed half of the time to have one of the most beautiful sunsets you've ever seen. And half of the time, one of the most beautiful sunrises you've ever seen, just based on the direction the ship is sailing. So I'm a big fan of the veranda because it's a private space to see the show that is basically, you know, the sunrise and the ocean.
So I think here's our game plan. We order the carafe to room service. That's what gets us out of bed so that we can be presentable to the world. And then we go to the Cove Cafe.
It's like
Christy, don't you wear your pajamas to get
everywhere.
Your coffee?
I do not feel the need to dress up on a Disney cruise in the morning. I don't need to shower before I leave and go off and do the things. So if you see me in the morning, you're going to see me kind of like you do right now, looking scruffy. And it is perfectly okay.
One more question?
Yeah.
One more question.
Okay, so we did kind of say that we were eyeing some other cruises. The cruise that we have been eyeing for probably 2 years now is a Greek island cruise.
I did not expect that answer. I expected the Marvel answer.
Oh, that would be a typical answer. But this is like, a big, I don't know,
bucket list.
Dream trip. Yes.
9-night big cruise.
The big deal. So what are suggestions or what are some things to look at, like when we're looking at itineraries or trying to pick a good time of year, since you guys have experience in that area?
Steve, you should take a crack at this because your cruise has been canceled so many times to go on that specific Greek cruise, right?
Yeah, I mean, are you trying to go on Disney or are any lines open?
I think that's the biggest question is when it's not going to Castaway Cay. Obviously, we think Disney is worth the extra money to go to Castaway Cay. That's why we're doing it here. We're skipping Nassau. But when you're going somewhere like that, where the majority of your time is meant to be spent off the boat, not majority, but your most valuable time is off the boat, is it worth it to go with Disney, or could you go down to Royal or another cruise line and get the same experience?
I mean, you could go to the same islands. So you can go to the same stops on every cruise line that stops at those places. So that experience is going to be close to being the same. But there's many listeners that we have that will say, you have to go on Disney. It's the only one. Steve and I and Chris, but Steve and I have cruised other cruise lines many, 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 many times. And we will continue to cruise other cruise lines many times. I think that all of the American cruise lines, so you only can go to Greece in the summer on an American cruise line. Well, from April to September, because that's when the American cruise lines send ships over to Europe. But there are cruise lines that are there all year. I don't know that I would want to be in Greece in the winter, but I don't know that I'd want to be in Greece in August either to be touring around. It's hot. You are going to have to answer that question yourself. Some people won't go on anywhere else because they also want to walk out of their cabin and hear Disney music. They want the whole Disney experience the whole time. But you have to decide too. The goal though for a Greek Isles cruise, I can't speak tonight, is to see the Greek islands, right? It's not to go rock climbing on Royal Caribbean. You're not bringing teenagers with you, so you're not necessarily needing to entertain them. So I would keep some of those types of things in line. Like, I don't think I would pick to go on a mega ship, like the big Oasis class ships, to Greece or to even some of the Mediterranean locations, because they're just not even going to be able to park at those same ports. So I guess I would take some of that into consideration and use that to make a decision. What say you, Steve?
I guess I would say this. You don't want to go in late July, August. You want to go in June if you can, which is when Disney's sailing right now. August, it's going to get really hot.
Europe takes a lot of August off as well. So that could actually limit or alter your experience that you would have in those locations, because more the cute little restaurants will be closed because they've all left to go somewhere else to go on vacation. So that's
because it gets so hot there. Mm-hmm. So I would target a June cruise. I would also think about maybe doing an ocean view or maybe an inside cabin if you want to go with Disney. Yeah, you might have one or two ports where you might have some great views of the islands, but for the most part, they're pretty industrial, a lot of the ports that they stop in. And so, sitting out on your veranda thinking you're going to have this great view while you're in port may or may not happen. Santorini, probably, but I can tell you in Naples, you're going to be like an industrial area, getting on a bus and going through the town to get to things that you want to do. The other thing you might think about also is 9 days gets to be long. If you're planning on doing long excursions every day, you're going to want at least 1 day or maybe two even, because like ours coming up only has 2 sea days. It's 9 days. So you got 7 days of basically back to back excursions. And so you need to kind of give yourself a break somewhere along in there. And for us, we love being on the Disney ships because we love the atmosphere. We love the clientele. We love everything about it. So that does make a difference for us as far as why we still stick with Disney even on that. So if you're looking price wise versus like a Norwegian, Royal, or something else, maybe look at Disney's Ocean View or Inside Cabin if you think that you want to stick with Disney.
The unsaid thing is that the Disney product outside of Castaway and the Caribbean is still amazing. So, and the other ships have not replicated it. If that is a very important thing to you, then, you know, the Disney product still impresses even when you don't get to stop at Castaway. But I have, for the very reasons that Steve and Christy listed, chosen not to cruise Disney in more expensive markets. We didn't cruise Disney in Alaska for that reason. And we wanted a veranda, and Disney charges like $5,000 or $6,000 more for their verandas than the other cruise lines. So, you know, if we're like, we want to see the things and we want a veranda, then Disney's a non-starter. So I think it really is about what's important to you, and Disney may price you out of the market anyway. So then you're just sort of like, great, I'll go with one of these other ones. Because while I stand by the fact that the food I had on the Norwegian cruise was the worst food I've had ever, I also have heard people had amazing food on Norwegian. So I really can't even say that there is any one cruise line that is particularly horrible in all aspects or not as good in all aspects. It's so hit or miss, and it's so different depending on which ship you're on, that you'll probably find something to love and something not to love on every ship.
And if you listen to enough of our podcast, you'll know that I'm also a big Celebrity fan. If you are looking for a comparable cruise line in terms of a premium cruise line, because Royal Caribbean is not premium, Norwegian is not premium, Disney is, and so is Celebrity, and so is Princess. But if you are looking for a comparable level of food and service, food, you know, sometimes is sketchy. Actually, Celebrity food is much better than the Disney food overall. Then Celebrity Cruises is where you would go. And I will note, a drink package is included in Celebrity, and they don't charge you $8 billion. They've included the gratuities within the price of the pricing for their cruises. So it is what it is. Like, you can get a cocktail with your dinner without giving them your CPAS card, which is what Celebrity calls it.
So we're in a similar boat as you, Steve, that this will be our third time booking a Greek cruise. So we had we canceled one on our own accord, then COVID canceled the other one. So this is our third try at it.
And which cruise lines did you choose the previous two times?
Norwegian
We've been
first,
everywhere.
and then we went on that spring break cruise and we're ruined.
You were like,
So
no
we-
thanks.
So we canceled Norwegian, and then we rebooked it at Royal, and then that got canceled out from under us. That was supposed to be last June, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise because that's when we moved to Florida anyway. So we were going to have to cancel it.
Steve's going to tell you, I think, right, that the Norwegian market in Europe is totally different than the spring break cruise market in the Caribbean literally over college spring break.
Same with Alaska. Very different market of people on our Norwegian cruise in Alaska. It was a lot of older, calmer folks.
Yeah. As they said, we took them to the Baltic, and then we also went to Croatia, Turkey, and Greece with Norwegian, and it's a completely different clientele. Very similar to Disney's, to be maybe a little bit older, not as many kids, but very similar to Disney's as far as kind of the vibe of the ship.
And some of the Norwegian ships have really cool stuff. Like, I'm a grown person, but I would love to ride go-karts at sea. And they also have like weird things like laser tag arenas and a lot of really fun type of excursions that are, you know, maybe not geared towards the Disney audience. So,
and that's another thing to consider. I know everybody on the West Coast here have to go make dinner, but when you are doing Disney, especially for new cruises and new ships, you're going to want to see the shows. And the thing with Europe is you are going to be so exhausted. I mean, maybe not, but at the end of the day from touring, that eating is a lot of effort. And then to also go and see the show might just put you over the edge of this is too much in one day. So I guess those are things to consider too. Do you save the magic for when they're doing their Marvel Day at Sea out of Miami for you guys, since you're big Marvel people? Maybe that's a better way for you to get on that ship. Or maybe you just say, nope, I'm going to do it anyway. These are hard questions.
We'll let you know.
We definitely want to hear about it.
Well, I guess as we kind of finish up, I think that, as you can tell, we're all very opinionated. hopefully we've given you some good answers to your questions. I know that we'll probably get some remarks on when this episode comes out as to how other people may differ in some of the opinions that we've expressed, but hopefully we've helped you guys out a little bit.
You've been very helpful. So do we have to like deem a winner now? Is that how this works? Who gave the most valid points?
I'm not sure I want to know the answer on that because I've been losing everything lately. So
Chris and I are like, yeah, we want an answer. We both want to hear that we are the winner.
No, in all honesty, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for being here with us. And thanks for all the amazing shows that you guys put out. As Christy was saying, I love the history shows. I look forward to those each and every time they come out, learning something different about some of the different attractions and parks and whatnot. So thank you so much for all you guys do as well for the Disney community.
Well, thank you. And we really appreciate you guys having us on and answering all of our questions. Hopefully we had some thought-provoking stuff along the way, but you've been immensely helpful to us, and that's the most important thing to us.
Yeah.
Well, Christy, any final thoughts as we get out?
Well, I was just going to say one more time, Brendan and Catherine, why don't you tell everybody where we could find you on the interwebs?
So you can find us pretty much everywhere at Detour to Neverland, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere in between, podcast platforms, same name. And then our website is detourtoneverland.com.
And YouTube. You guys do YouTubing things as well, right?
We do. Good catch.
Yeah. Not much, but there's some stuff there.
And the Instagram pictures you guys put out are amazing. So make sure you follow them on Instagram if you're not already.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, well, as we get out of here, once again, thanks you guys for coming on, and know that you can always reach out to us with any questions you have. Obviously, feel free to drop us a line, or we can have you guys back on. We'd love to have you back on after you get back from the Greek Isles cruise, and we can see how that goes, and the Wish as well.
Now we're held accountable. We have to do it, Catherine.
And now I have to book something. Don't tempt us with a good time.
All right. Well, all the best, guys. Cheers. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Brendan and Catherine for coming on and sharing their questions and asking their questions of Christy, Chris, and I about cruising with Disney Cruise Line. We're excited for them to get on the Disney Wish, and hopefully they'll be able to book that cruise over the Greek Isles as well, and look forward to bringing their story back to you when they get back. And if you have not listened to their podcast, we really encourage you to go over it and check them out. They just do an amazing job over Detour to Neverland. Of course, their website is detourtoneverland.com. You can find all the links there. You can find their podcast wherever you can find podcasts. They have a huge following and just a great Instagram page, so you can go over there as well. So once again, Brendan, Catherine, thank you so much for coming on and being our guest this week. If you're enjoying this podcast and you know somebody else who might, we sure would appreciate it. Word of mouth goes a long way. Also, if you have time and you have time to go over to iTunes and leave us a review, that helps our podcast get known a little bit better than Disney cruising, the cruising, and just the Disney podcasting genre in general. Also, we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters who help bring this show to you each and every week. Thank you so much. If you would like to find out more about our Patreon program, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Well, as we're heading on into the summer, July 4th is past us, and I know a lot of people have different vacations and things planned. On behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, we want to wish you and your families be well out there. Have a safe vacations wherever you may be traveling this year, and just enjoy the time with your family. And we will see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Good night, everybody.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.